What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name's CJ, this is Out of Bounds, and in today's video, we return to the NBA single stat player props. So we're going to be looking at both real life points, assists, and some rebounds for you today. So if you're into that sort of thing, stick around. Whether you're playing on PrizePicks or you're out betting on your favorite sports book, this video is sure to have some value for you. If this is your first time on the channel, welcome to Out of Bounds DFS. My name's CJ. On this channel, we do all things single player daily fantasy sports. Right now, our primary focus is PrizePicks and NBA. We talk single stat player props. We talk fantasy points from time to time. So if you're into that sort of thing and you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so now and make sure you turn on notifications so that you don't miss any of my future content. Now, with that in the books, I hope you guys all had a great weekend. We've got a pretty good size NBA slate to talk about today. So we're going to talk injury news first and see if there's any impactful guys that are going to be out of the lineup. And then we'll go from there and start talking about the points and the assists and the rebounds. So here we go. We got the Rockets, Sterling Brown, knee injury. He's going to be out on Monday. Not too impactful there. The Warriors, Kelly Oubre, wrist injury is out again on Monday. That one is a pretty impactful one for the Golden State Warriors. The Wizards, Bradley Beal, he's dealing with a back injury. He's going to be probable for Monday. And you might have remembered that Bradley Beal was dealing with a hip injury at one point. Now it's a back injury, so he's a little banged up, beaten up. Could that impact his performance? We'll have to wait and see on that one. Continuing down the line here, Danny Green is not on Monday's injury report, so he should be available for the Philadelphia 76ers. Tobias Harris, also not on the injury report. He had been dealing with a little bit of knee issues, but looks like he's going to be good to go for the Philadelphia 76ers. Kyle Kuzma, Lakers forward, is going to be questionable for Monday with a calf injury. Let's see if there's anything else impactful for Monday's NBA slate. And it doesn't really look like it. Those are going to be the biggest names, the biggest news stories to watch out for. Here's one other one. Mike Conley, injury management, is going to be out for Monday. So that is a big one for the Utah Jazz. But there you have it. Just keep an eye on injury news. Of course, if you're a member of our Discord community, I've got an NBA news channel in there that's constantly bringing in all the latest news headlines. And if you're not in the Discord yet, well, I'll leave a link down in the description of today's video. You can join the Discord for free. We're talking PrizePicks. We're talking single stat player props for all different sports, all in our Discord. And it's completely free. Plus, I also offer a Patreon membership if you want to support me as a content creator. I also go above and beyond what I can do in these YouTube videos. And I create spreadsheets identifying some good single stat player picks. I also put out first half lineups, and we've got projection comparisons where we compare PrizePicks versus some of the other sites that are out there across the industry. So a lot of helpful, useful information. Hopefully it'll save you some time and lead to more wins. So if you're interested in supporting me and doing that, I'll leave a link to the Patreon where you can go and join down in the description below as well. So that's going to do it for the injury news. We can start talking single stat player props. And I've got a few names that I want to talk about. I did a little bit of research this morning, and these are the names that are sticking out to me as potentially good plays. The first guy up is going to be Reggie Bullock. New York Knicks, he is projected at 9.5 real life points for the New York Knicks as they face the Los Angeles Lakers tonight. That game is at 7:40 p.m. They've got him at 9.5. So at 9.5, we're going to take a look and see where they've got him projected. Now, the website you see over here is numberfire.com, completely free for you to go out and use. They've got fantasy projections out there for NBA and other sports. Plus, they do some single stat projections as well that can be very beneficial when you're looking at doing some single stat player props on PrizePicks or your various sportsbook sites. So what I like to do is do a little search here, and we'll type in Reggie Bullock's name, and as you can see, it comes right up here. He is projected for 9.2 real life points, which would put him under 9.5. So far, the under looking like the way to go on Reggie Bullock. So if we go to this next page here, this is another completely free website. And the point of these videos is to show you how you can go and do some research on your own. Completely free, it doesn't cost you a single cent. And all it does is require a little bit of time and a little bit of effort on your part. But NBA.com/players is a great resource. From here, we can type in Reggie Bullock's name. Now I do a control click on his name to open up a new tab. If you're on a Mac, you want to do command click. It opens up a new tab here and you can see his player card pops right up. Now, if we look at his season average for scoring, he's at 9.7 points per game, which puts him a slight over on this 9.5 point projection tonight. So from there, we would click stats. And then from the stats page, we click the traditional splits link. Now we can click advanced filters and then we could change this date range season segment from all games because we don't want to look at the season average. We already know he scores slightly more than 9.5 points for the season. Let's look at his last 5 games and click run and see how he's been performing lately versus his season averages. And you can see in his last 5 games, he's appeared in all 5 of those. He is scoring at a 13.4 point per game clip. So yeah, that's a little concerning when you're wanting to take the under on Reggie Bullock's 9.5 points, but he's been scoring at 13.4 points. Well, that's a little cause for concern, let's just say. So the last thing I like to do when I'm doing research on any of these single stat player props is going over to rotowire.com/betting/NBA/player-props. And over there, you can see a side-by-side comparison of all the various sports books, at least the main ones. There's 4 different ones that they show on here. And then from there, you can kind of do a little search for Reggie Bullock's name. So we'll type his name in there. And you can see that not all sports books have a prop up for Reggie Bullock. DraftKings does not. FanDuel does, however, and at 9.5 points, people seem to be favoring the under on Reggie Bullock. BetMGM, they do not have a prop up for him. But the last site that we look at, which is going to be PointsBet, if we arrow over here, at 9.5, people are taking the under on the 9.5. You can see he is a -120 for the under. So despite his last 5 games and his scoring average being up over 13 points, it looks like, based on today's projections, based on the way that Vegas is betting, that they like the under on Reggie Bullock, and that is probably the way that I would go too. So with that being said, we can move on to the next guy. The next one that stood out to me was Dillon Brooks, the swingman for the Memphis Grizzlies. Now he's projected at 17.5 real life points. So we'll do the same thing we just did for Reggie Bullock, a little rinse and repeat here. So if we type in Brooks, Dillon Brooks' name comes up here. He is projected at 15.9 real life points, which would be fantastic if we're looking to take the under. That would mean that he's going to score about a 1.5 less points than he's projected to score today. Of course, there's no such thing as half points. It's either, he's going to score 17 or 18 or 16. No such thing as 17.5. But as you can see here, if he sticks around 16 points, we'd be in good shape, especially if we look to take the under on this one. So the next thing that we do is we slide on over to NBA.com and we type in Dillon Brooks. And his name pops right up. We do a little control click, command click if you're on a Mac. And you can see that his player card pops right up here. And he is projected, his averages rather, are 16.4 points per game, which puts him about a whole point under today's projection of 17.5. So for the season, his scoring averages are much lower. I'm getting a little content unavailable error message here on NBA.com. Interesting. Okay. Let's see if we can go back here. Pardon me while we deal with technical difficulties. Let's try Dillon Brooks again here. For some reason, I clicked on his name and then I saw something in the URL that said something or another about George Hill. I don't know. Anyway. Not going to get the 5-game look at Dillon Brooks and his averages. Let's just jump on over to RotoWire and we could take a look at how he's been being bet on so far this morning. So you can see DraftKings, they do not have a point prop up for him, but FanDuel, they've got him up here at 17.5, and at 17.5, looks like people are taking the under on 17.5. And then finally, PointsBet, the only other site that has a scoring prop up there for him, he's at 17.5 there as well. People are also taking a good stance here on the under. So based on what we're seeing in terms of what he's projected to score today, plus the way that the Vegas action is moving, I would say that the under is probably the way to go for Dillon Brooks. So there you have it. Now, we're going to move from points over to assists, and I've got a couple of names to talk about in terms of assists. The first one's going to be Big Ben Simmons. Now, at 6.5 assists, I think that he makes sense going over. So we'll just double check all of our various websites, our sources, and we'll make sure that Ben Simmons is going to go under based on what we're seeing, or go over based on what we're seeing. So we type his name in. Let's see if this one loads. Yes, it does. Cool. So let's go back here to Number Fire. We'll type in Ben Simmons' name. Then we'll click and sort by assists. And you can see that he's projected for 7.4 assists, which puts him almost one whole of assist over his 6.5 assist projection today. So we just need him to dish it out about 7 times. 7 dimes would get us there, and we would be A-okay if we're looking to take the over. So I've already got Ben Simmons pulled up here on NBA.com, and you can see that for the season, he has been averaging 7.1 assists per game, which puts him over today's projection. So we need him to be at least 7 assists, maybe even more would be great if he wants to pad his stats a little bit, but 7 would get the job done. So we click stats, we go down to traditional splits, we change this from all games to just his last 5 so we can get a more recent sample size and see how he's been dishing out the ball. And he's made 5 appearances in his last 5-game window, and you can see that his assists are just 5 per game. Now, this might be a good spot for us to target a bounce back here. Usually when a guy is performing at below his season averages, I like to target that. I think that's a good opportunity for us to potentially catch him on a bounce back situation here. So although his averages in his last 5 are below his season averages, I still think that there's some credibility here to taking the over on Ben Simmons. Now, the last thing we're going to check is RotoWire. And on RotoWire, you can see that DraftKings does not have an assist prop up for Ben Simmons. FanDuel does. And on FanDuel, they're taking the slight over on Ben Simmons. Now, BetMGM, they've got him up at 5.5 assists instead of 6.5 assists. And at 5.5 assists, guys, if you're able to bet on BetMGM, this is a no-brainer in my opinion. I would go over there and I would slam the over on 5.5 assists on BetMGM because I think he's definitely good for at least 6 assists. Now, the last website, PointsBet, you can see that the action is pretty much split. Not really seeing a strong over or under position being taken by anybody over on PointsBet, but all in all, I think the over on 6.5 assists for Ben Simmons makes a whole lot of sense. So that is the way that I will be going in this matchup. The next guy we're going to talk about is the Chicago Bulls big man, Nicola Vuchevich, and his assists, which are set at 3.5. So let's take a look at the 3.5 number for Vuch and see if going over or under is going to make any sense at all. So they got him exactly at 3.5 assists, which means between that 3 and that 4 spectrum, 4 assists for Nicola Vuchevich, he's like a coin flip. He's right in the middle. He could go 4, he could go 3. There's not really a clear path here. So little sketch so far, not going to lie, but we're going to type his name in here and see how the assists have been looking for Vuchevich in recent games, as well as the season averages. Now, of course, unless you've been living under a rock, been in a coma, or just been MIA for whatever reason, you know that Nicola Vuchevich was an Orlando Magic player to start the season. Now he's a Chicago Bulls player. So some of these numbers are a little bit skewed because of his time with the Magic. But for the season, you can see 3.8 assists per game. So more often than not, he is more on the 4 end of the spectrum than he is on the 3 end of the spectrum when it comes to assists. Now, we will get a better idea of how he's been performing in the assist category by looking at his last 5 games. So let's do that right now. We hit run, and you can see in his last 5 games, in terms of assists, he's at 3.6, which is a slight edge over the 3.5, putting him closer to 4 than it does put him at 3. So yeah, I would still be leaning toward taking the over on Nicola Vuchevich here. Of course, if he doesn't get the 4 assists, that means he's going to get 3 assists. And if we're looking to take the over, well, we would lose in that situation. So let's hope for the 4. But last but not least, we're going to do one last little searchy search here, and that's going to be rotowire.com. And you can see that DraftKings Sportsbook does not have an assist prop up for Nicola Vuchevich at the moment. FanDuel does, and at 3.5, people are taking the over in this situation. BetMGM does not have a prop up. PointsBet, They do have the 3.5 assist prop up for Vuchevich, and they are also hammering the over there. So I like the way that the Vegas action, the juice, is flowing on the over for Nicola Vuchevich at 3.5 assists. Plus, for the season and for his last 5 games, he's averaging over 3.5 assists. So I think it makes a lot of sense here. I know his projection's exactly at 3.5, but let's just take the averages. Let's trust the numbers. Let's trust the stats and hope that he goes over 3.5 assists in this one. There you have it for Vooch. Now that we've got the assists out of the way, we can finally move to rebounds. And I've got 4 interesting rebound props for you today. I don't have any 3-point props at the moment. Based on what they have up on the PrizePicks board, not really seeing anything that stands out to me. So we're going to skip 3-pointers today and just talk rebounds. Went a little heavier on the rebounds for you to make up for the lack of 3-point props that I'm seeing out there. The first guy we're going to talk about is also a member of the Philadelphia 76ers. We've already talked to Ben Simmons. Now we're going to talk to Tobias Harris and his rebounds. Now at 7 rebounds, I am liking the over, and I'll tell you why. Let's look into it. So we head on over to Numberfire. We can sort the rebound column. We'll type in Tobias Harris's name just to get him isolated here. And you can see that at 7 rebounds, they are liking 7.7 rebounds on Numberfire. So they're liking an over. They think he can get at least 8 boards or closer to 8 boards than 7 boards in this matchup. So there you have it. That's looking good so far if we're looking to take the over. Now let's type in his name on NBA.com. We could do a little bit of digging into his season averages and his last 5 games and all that. And you can see for the season, his rebound numbers are at 7.3, so slightly over tonight's projection of 7 boards. We're not going to stop there. No way, Jose. We're going to click into this, and then we're going to click traditional splits, advanced filters, all games down to 5 games. And we want to look at how he's done in his last 5. Now, in that 5-game segment, he's appeared in 4 games, and he's rebounding the ball at 7 rebounds per game, which would set him up for a push. Now, I think that that is the worst-case scenario here. Based on everything that I've seen so far, we take the over, and worst case, he ends up with 7 boards, and it's a push. Now, pushes do pay on PrizePicks. So if you do end up pushing on Tobias Harris in these rebounds, well, that's all right, because we'll still get paid on a push. Now, if I type in Tobias Harris's name here on RotoWire, you can see that DraftKings Sportsbook does not have a prop up for him, but FanDuel does. And at 6.5 rebounds, not 7, but 6.5, they definitely like the over at 6.5, meaning they think he's going to get at least 7 boards, maybe more. So yes, again, this is setting up for a push, but if it does push, we're okay with that because we're not going to lose money on a push. Now, on BetMGM 6.5, you can see people are smashing the over there. And at PointsBet, they've actually got him up at 7.5 boards. And at 7.5 boards, people are smashing the under. So he's over 6.5 on 2 sites. He's under 7.5 on one other site. So what's the difference between 6.5 and 7.5? Well, right in the middle is 7. And that looks like where he's setting up. So at this 7 number on PrizePicks, I'm taking the over. Worst case scenario, we're setting up here for a push. So there you have it on Tobias Harris. I think that's a good way to go. Pretty safe pick. Next guy we're going to talk about is R.J. Barrett, another New York Knick. Now he's at 5.5 rebounds on PrizePicks today. I've got him going over. Let's see if his recent game logs and all that stuff back that up. So 5.5 boards. Let's go do a search and find his projected rebound numbers today on Numberfire. You can see that he is projected for 5.8 rebounds, which puts him slightly over 5.5. So far the over looking like the way to go. Of course, if we go over 5.5 rebounds, that means we expect R.J. Barrett, we hope R.J. Barrett gets 6 rebounds. So that's what we're looking for out of R.J. tonight. So let's type his name in here on NBA.com. And you can see for the season, he has been rebounding closer to 6 rebounds per game than he has been rebounding at a 5 rebound per game rate. So that is also looking good and encouraging. Let's click on his stats and dig into his last 5 games and get an idea of how he's been rebounding the basketball there. Click run, and there you go. You could see that in his last 5 games, his rebounds are down at 3 boards. So hasn't been rebounding the ball very well in his last 5. 3 quite a bit lower than 5.5 and 5.8 his season average. So that is a little bit concerning, not going to lie to you. But we're not going to stop there. We're going to look and see how he is stacking up on the various sports books in the rebound category. Once again, DraftKings and BetMGM, no rebound prop up for RJ Barrett. So we got to rely on FanDuel and PointsBet. Now, FanDuel at 5.5, people are taking a slight over position here on RJ Barrett's 5.5 boards. PointsBet looks like the juice is split. Not really seeing any kind of action over or under on 5.5 rebounds. So for me, if I'm going one way or the other, I'm probably leaning toward the over, but I could understand why you'd want to walk away from this one and fade it completely. Sometimes that's the best play, just to walk away and not try to figure it out. So there you go for RJ Barrett. The next guy we're going to talk about in terms of rebound, we're going back to Chicago. We're going back to the big man, Nicola Vuchevich, who's projected at 10 rebounds. Of course, he's going to have a tough matchup here against the Memphis Grizzlies and another good big man, Jonas Valanciunas, who's projected for a lot more rebounds than Vuch. But let's talk Vuchevich rebounds real quick. He's at 10 boards so far. Let's see if maybe we can take an overplay on Nicola Vuchevich. That's how I'm feeling about it on my limited research before shooting today's video. Now, his projection is 11 boards, which puts him a whole rebound over 10. So if we are taking the over, we need him to get 11. He's projected to get 11. I'm liking the way that's shaping up so far. Next thing we're going to do is type in his name to NBA.com. It would be helpful if I spelled his name right. Then, we get a good search result popping up. And for the season, you could see his rebound per game are at 11.4. 11.4 rebounds per game for the season. So that is strong, good look so far. Let's go ahead and move this from season averages to 5-game averages. And in his last 5 games, 10.2 rebounds. So yes, technically that is over 10. But on the 10 to 11 rebound spectrum, he has been closer to 10 than he has 11, which is a little bit concerning. So we got to go a step further here. We got to get more clarification. We got to get a clear path. Should we go over? Should we go under on Nicola Vuchevich in these rebounds? Well, once again, DraftKings and BetMGM, nowhere to be found on a prop for Nicola Vuchevich. So it's FanDuel and PointsBet that we'll be referencing. And you can see at 9.5 rebounds on FanDuel, people are hitting the over there. So they think 10 rebounds or more are in the cards here for Nicola Vuchevich. Now, PointsBet, same situation, 9.5 rebounds there. He's setting up to go for at least 10 boards, at least based on the way that people are betting. So if you are lucky enough to be on one of these sports books, FanDuel or PointsBet, I would be taking the over on Nicola Vuchevich. I like the 9.5 number way more than I like the 10 number. Now, the 10 number is still doable. I would still take the over on Nicola Vuchevich at 10 boards, but bear in mind that this could end up being one of those situations where Vuchevich lands exactly on 10, and you might find yourself in a bit of a push. Pushes pay, but we would really like 11 rebounds out of Vuchevich. All right, so that brings us to our last guy on today's video, and it's Nicola Vucevich's teammate, Zach Levine, that we'll be talking about. He's at 5.5 rebounds again, taking on the Memphis Grizzlies, 9:10 p.m. tonight. So at 5.5 boards, I am liking Zach Levine on the under. I don't think he's going to get 5.5 rebounds. Of course, he can't get 5.5, but I don't think he's going to get 6 rebounds. Let's put it that way. I think he'll be at 5 rebounds or less. Now, the initial research that I did here this morning, the projections for Zach Levine stood out to me because at 4.8 rebounds, even if he hits 5 boards, well, 5 boards is less than 5.5, and we would be in good shape taking the under on this prop. But we're not going to stop there. No sirree, Bob. We're going to go a step further. We're going to go to a place that no man has gone before, except for me, like 8 other times in this video. But we're going to type in Zach Levine's name on NBA.com, and you can see for this season, his rebound per game is at 5.1 rebounds per game, which lends itself to an under in this situation as well. Hopefully he lands right on 5 if he's going to be rebounding the ball tonight. So let's get into his last 5 games and take a look and see how those have been looking. All right, so his last 5 games, he's been rebounding a lot better. 6.4 rebounds. 6.4 would put him over 5.5. That's not good news for us. It's a little concerning, but I'm not going to let that stop me. No, I'm not. And we're going to go a little further here and see how the sports books like him. Once again, nothing on DraftKings, nothing on BetMGM, but on FanDuel and on PointsBet, you can see at 5.5 boards, they are taking the under on FanDuel, minus 122. And then on PointsBet, at 5.5 boards, they are taking the under there as well. He is a minus 120. So just to recap, the season averages are in our favor. The last 5 game averages for Levine are not in our favor. He's been rebounding the ball a bit better in his last 5. But Vegas, they seem to be taking the under on 5.5 rebounds for Zach Levine. And that's probably the way that I'm going to go as well, and hope that more rebounds go to Vuchevich, less rebounds go to Levine in this game. So there you have it. That's how things are shaping up for today's initial player props over on PrizePicks and the various sports books out there. I hope this video has brought you some value. If it has, please hit the thumbs up button. It lets me know that you're liking this style of content, and I'll keep making more of it for you. I'm going to put a goal of 25 likes on today's video, and at 25 likes, I'm taking the over. I think we can go over 25.5 because we've got over 820 subscribers. Fantastic, fantastic support. So I'm glad you're liking what I'm doing in these videos. And hopefully I've taught you how to go do some research on your own if you find a little time throughout the day. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name's CJ. Don't forget to join the Discord below. Patreon also down there if you want to check it out and see what we're doing down in the Patreon. And good luck tonight. Until the next video, guys. We'll see you then. Peace out.